Hello and welcome to Fan Dummies. I'm Greg.
And I'm Erin.
And today we're going to count down the top 10 science fiction movies of all time. As many of you know, I'm a huge science fiction nerd.
The biggest.
I even have a YouTube channel called Greg Reviews Sci-Fi where, you guessed it, I review science fiction. I know, it's hot, right? I didn't want to construct my own list from scratch because I didn't think Erin would watch it. So we set out on a mission to research what the world believes to be the best science fiction movies. We narrowed it down to 15-ish, and then we did a poll on the largest science fiction Facebook group. After about 1,000 responses, we had what we thought was a workable list. So then we removed all the superheroes. We removed all of Star Wars and all of Star Trek.
Is that allowed?
It is. I mean, those fans are very dedicated, and they can weigh any sort of poll. I mean, I was surprised it didn't come back like all Star Wars, or maybe Star Wars was completely missing because people are salty about it. For our patrons, we're going to talk about movies that we think are missing from this list and where they should be. I know Erin's got a couple, 2, 3. I've got a couple too.
Yeah.
And I'm the sci-fi nerd, so you might get one obscure one that you weren't expecting from me. You ready to get into it?
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.
10.
The 10th spot is Interstellar.
Yeah.
Came out in 2014. It was directed by Christopher Nolan, and it stars Matthew McConaughey.
All right.
Pause for 5 minutes while I laugh. Anne Hathaway and Jessica Chastain.
Were you expecting me to go, all right again after all those?
It's about a team of explorers who travel through a wormhole in space in an attempt to ensure humanity's survival. What did you think about Interstellar?
I'm a pretty big Matthew McConaughey fan. I mean, not only does he look amazing in a Lincoln, but he also pulls off farmer, astronaut. I mean, the guy can wear a flight suit.
I remember your comments during the movie, Greg.
Yeah. I like the movie. I think it deals with science fiction somewhat uniquely. I mean, we get to explore a black hole. We get to explore multi-dimensional humans. Many people don't like this.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I think it's hard to understand. And if
Yeah.
you're not a sci-fi nerd, then you don't know what a real Tesseract is. You know, you think Avengers.
It's not the same.
This one, I think you should give another shot. The second time you watch it, I think it's better than the first.
Yeah, I remember we saw it in 2014, I think, when it came out. And I remember enjoying it back then. And this time around, when we watched it again, I think I enjoyed it even more. I think you kind of know the plot and you kind of what's going to happen, you know, the second time around. So you can kind of like look for more details because it is very detail oriented and there's a lot of like clues in the movie that's, you know, what's going to happen towards the end, which I think is really neat. So if you watch it again, you might pick up on some of those clues.
For sure.
9.
In the 9th spot, we have Dune, 1984. And of course, the David Lynch Dune. I mean, come on, we're not savages. Dune stars Kyle MacLachlan, Virginia Madsen, and Francesca Annis. A Duke's son leads desert warriors against the Galactic Emperor and his father's evil nemesis when they assassinate his father and free their desert world from the Emperor's rule. Muad'Dib. Muad'Dib. Did you like this, Erin?
Don't hate me, but not really. And part of the reason is because I'm salty that you made me watch the movie because
Shouldn't you
I've
say
been wanting to read the book And I think a movie like this deserves the book to be read first, because I think it's like, if you've seen the book in the bookstore, it's pretty thick. I'm sure there's a lot more details in it that you get, from reading it than watching the movie. So
I'm embarrassed to say I've not read the book Dune.
wow.
I'm doing this list called the Master's Degree of Science Fiction, where I'm reading all of the classics, and I have not yet made it to Dune. And by the way, you're not allowed to be salty. You have to be spicy.
Spicy. Gosh. Well, maybe we should put that on our reading list and like read it together and talk about it. Because I know it's pretty in depth, I think.
I'm
Or
ready
at least
to do
from
it.
watching the movie, it seems like it's going to be in depth. Because I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of stuff that was happening in the movie that I was just like, I don't know what's going on. And I think if I would have known, I think I would have been like, whoa, that's really cool.
Well, there's a new Dune coming out, so we could read the books in preparation for that.
Yeah, that's what I was planning on doing. But
Yeah.
nope.
The podcast must go on, Aaron.
So I'll just forget that I watched it and I'm going to start fresh.
The second or third time you watch Dune is also better. And I know a lot of our listeners might be younger. This is a movie, if you're into science fiction, you really need to watch the movie and eventually read the book. Probably read the book, but I know a lot of people don't read or don't have time to read.
Or get the audiobook or something.
Yeah.
8,
In the number 8 spot, we have Serenity.
Yeah.
It came out in 2005. It stars Nathan Fillion, Gina Torres, Alan Tudyk, and Chiwetel Ejiofor.
I can't believe you missed Marina Baccarin.
Oops. I guess I should have added her.
We have, I don't know if you can see it. Oh yeah, you can just barely see it
Back there.
in the top left corner behind the Death Star gumball machine.
Her autographed picture.
That's right.
What did you think of Serenity?
I love Serenity. I hate the way they talk. So a pet peeve of mine, if you watch any of my Greg reviews Sci-Fi, is if they use made up words like go ram. It drives me crazy.
Shinies?
Well, I think shiny's okay because you can use, I think it's reasonable that in the future words will mean different things. I mean, words mean different things now.
Yeah.
But it's the invention of words that drive me crazy. To me, it dates the movie. But
yeah.
I really loved the movie. Other than that, I think it's one little gripe, but I thought the story was fun. I loved the characters. If you were born in 2005, you probably haven't seen this one. You should definitely go back and watch this.
Yeah.
There's also a whole series called Firefly that you could watch also.
Yeah, I always liked the Firefly show. And we've actually seen or met in real life, like at least 5 of these actors that were in Serenity or Firefly. So it kind of makes it more fun, I think, when we go back and watch it now.
Yeah.
Because they seem like pretty fun people, like in real life.
Yeah.
Especially Alan Tudyk.
Yeah, he's in Doom Patrol, and then he's going to be in Resident Alien on the Sci-Fi channel, which is coming soon.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
Yeah, going to be fun.
And it's kind of like a Western in space. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of like Star Wars or The Mandalorian.
Yeah, kind of.
So it's kind of, I think, fun and different because the rest of the movies on our list, they're not, really like Westerns in space, I don't think. They're more super hardcore sci-fi. So I think that makes this movie stand out a little bit.
I agree.
7,
In the number 7 spot, we have Forbidden Planet, 1956. Directed by Fred M. Wilcox, starring Walter Pidgeon, Anne Francis, and Leslie Nielsen. Is that the Leslie Nielsen? I didn't recognize him. From like Naked Gun, Leslie Nielsen?
Maybe. I don't
Man,
know.
I'm going to have to go back and watch that. I did not recognize him. It's about a starship crew that goes to investigate the silence of a planet's colony, only to find 2 survivors and a deadly secret that one of them has. It's always, there's 1 left or 2 left. That's your guy. I mean, it's not rocket science.
It must have been in 1956.
I know, you landed in a flying saucer, yet, the one sole survivor is not your criminal. Okay, Aaron.
Spoilers, Greg.
So did you like this, Aaron?
I will say no.
No?
I don't think the movie holds up.
No? What's wrong with it?
There was one big thing that I just hated about it. I just couldn't like get past it.
Okay.
Was how the men and the women were portrayed, I guess, back in the 50s. And like the woman that they come across, she's just so naive. And these men that come off the spaceship, they're just trying to take advantage of her. Like the second they walk off the ship, it's just gross. I don't know. And it goes through pretty much the whole movie. And it's just weird. I don't know. It just doesn't hold up. And like when I look back and I think about the story, I thought it was pretty creative, especially like since this came out in 56. I mean, that's pretty
it's pre-Star Trek.
Yeah, pretty old. And for like the science fiction and the technology, and I like the robot that was in it. I thought that was pretty neat. So, but I don't know.
This movie is iconic. I mean, the robot, this has a lot of nostalgia, but I agree. I mean, those spacemen were thirsty.
Horny.
I mean, whoo.
They were like, we've been on a spaceship for a year and a half or something like that. And I'm just like, oh gosh.
And this girl was barely, I mean, I think she was a teenager, like an older teen.
Yeah.
I don't know if they ever say, but basically they were trying to figure out ways to convince her to get together with him. And since she had never met another man besides her father, you know, she had never seen those moves before. Mm-mm. Like every pickup move would work.
Yeah.
First time.
Yeah. Every guy was like hitting on her.
Yeah. So then the captain came to her rescue, but guess what happened to him? You know, they hooked up.
Yeah. He was the one that got her.
He's the White Knight. So maybe that's the invention of the White Knight and the thirsty spaceman.
Yeah. A little too thirsty.
I don't like older movies. And to be completely honest, I don't really love older sci-fi books either for a lot of these same reasons. I just feel weird reading them, but I have to remember that they're a product of their time.
Yeah.
And it does make me happy that the progress we've made in 60 years.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's both good and bad. I think you have to look back at that stuff and just take it for when it was made and look at the story and look at the things that came after, the lanes that it paved. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So for that, I liked it. I thought the story was good. I thought it was super creative. I thought the special effects were awesome for 1956. Mm-hmm. So I liked it.
Yeah. I'm glad I got to watch it though, because I've never watched it before.
Yeah.
6.
The number 6 spot is The Terminator. Ooh. Came out in 1984.
I'll be back on your list.
It was directed by James Cameron, and it stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, Linda Hamilton, and Michael Biehn.
Really good.
Mm-hmm. In 1984, a human soldier is tasked to stop an indestructible cyborg killing machine. Both sent from 2029.
Oh my gosh.
That's pretty close. Is that going to happen?
The way this year's going, I think it could.
From executing a young woman whose unborn son is the key to humanity's future salvation.
Whew.
What did you think about this Terminator movie, Greg?
The Terminator is one of my all-time favorite movies. I love it. Arnold Schwarzenegger is amazing. For not many lines, he delivers them perfectly. The technology was cool. This is just a win-win-win-win. I mean, it's the reason you see James Cameron in Future Man as like the super leader.
That's funny.
Love Future Man. Erin hated it.
And I like season 1, but not 2 or 3.
Yeah, it went downhill.
Yeah, totally.
What about you?
I really liked the Terminator movie. We talked about it before because it was Greg's top pick when we did our top 80s movies episode. And we'll put the link in the description so you can listen to that. But it's just a super action-packed movie. And I like the concept, like Skynet trying to take over the human race. And like the AI versus the humans is not a new concept. I mean, we see that a lot in sci-fi movies. And I like how the Terminators use time travel to go back in time to try to kill someone so that, the humans don't win. I really like that concept.
It's risky because I don't even think a computer can calculate what the unintended consequences of killing one person are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, perhaps that's, it's like the movie Butterfly Effect, even tiny changes make big differences in the future. Now it's time to talk about our Patreon. In our basic tier, you will get extended ad-free episodes and early access. Our other tiers allow you to join our private Discord chat room, participate in live Q&As, polls, and Twitter shoutouts. Check out patreon.com/fandummies or click the link in the show notes below. This is going to be a fun Patreon segment because we get to talk about the movies that are missing from this list. It's our own opinions.
Yeah.
I think, as much media as we consume, I think we're okay giving our opinion once in a while.
Yeah, sometimes. Especially for how many sci-fi movies that we both end up watching.
For sure. You ready to get to the top 5?
Yeah.
Now it's about to get good.
5.
In the 5th spot, The Fifth Element. How'd that work out? Released in 1997, directed by Luc Besson, starring Bruce Willis, Mila Jovovich, and Gary Oldman. In the colorful future, a cab driver unwittingly becomes the central figure in a search for a legendary cosmic weapon to keep evil and Mr. Zorg at bay. Erin, before I go into this, what did you think of this movie?
I enjoyed it. I think
did?
it had a fun element to it that, like we've been watching so many serious sci-fi movies, and this one, it was a lot of fun. Like they were singing and I was just like the colors and the acting and stuff like that, it just was different, I think. Like not what I was expecting. I thought it was going to be like a cyberpunk sci-fi movie. I kept thinking that, and I wasn't expecting it to be kind of fun and playful.
Yeah.
And I thought Bruce Willis did a really great job as the leading actor, and I liked his dynamic with the leading woman, Mila Jovovich.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. She's from the Resident Evil movies.
Well, she went on to play in the Resident Evil movies.
So I know her from those first because we watched the Resident Evil movies, and
Mila Jovovich is amazing, and she was much better in The Fifth Element than any of those Resident Evil movies.
Yeah.
Multi-pass.
Yeah. I always like it when there's like the leading women are just awesome and they're great fighters and they're badass, and not the women that you see in the Forbidden Planet movie.
Yeah, that's the opposite.
Yeah.
Fifth Element is one of my favorite all-time science fiction movies. I love Bruce Willis. I mean, I'm a diehard fan. It's the best Christmas movie there is.
Okay, Jake from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
I'll take it. That's a compliment. What I didn't realize is how good the special effects actually were.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I think back on The Fifth Element, I think kind of cheesy, but it really wasn't as cheesy as I remember it. I mean, Chris Tucker was kind of cheesy, but he was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Bruce Willis, Mila Jovovich, even the space battles, even though they were short, they were good.
Mm-hmm.
The science part of the science fiction, Mr. Evil, that weighed a little bit too far into fantasy. But I just pretended it's an alien from another universe that they just call Mr. Evil.
Seems like something you would see on Doctor Who.
Yeah, exactly. But other than that, I thought it was great. It's held up really well for 1997 movie, and I had a lot of fun watching it again.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly,
really
good.
I don't think I've ever seen it before either. That was my first time watching it.
Yeah.
Some parts seem familiar, so maybe like you turned it on the weekend or something, and I caught bits and pieces of it, but I don't think I've ever watched it all the way through. Which made it kind of fun.
It's a movie I would watch like after you fell asleep on the couch. I'd like find it like doot, 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 when I'm untethered.
4,
Number 4, we have The Matrix, and it came out in 1999.
Amazing.
It was directed by the Wachowskis, and it stars Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, and Carrie-Anne Moss. It's about a computer hacker that learns from mysterious rebels about the true nature of his reality and his role in the war against its controllers.
AKA The Matrix.
Yeah. So what did you think about The Matrix? I already know what you're going to say.
I mean, it's one of the best science fiction movies of all time. It deserves its number 4 spot. I'm surprised it's not higher. I mean, it's not a generally unique premise. And I think we even determined in one of our previous episodes that bullet time probably wasn't actually invented by the Matrix like people think it was. The whole thing held up so well. And the story is just so great. You know, there's no plot holes. It wraps up really nicely. I don't know about the next ones, but this movie, The Matrix, is exceptional. Just the colors, the outfits, the sets, like everything is so good. Keanu Reeves is genius in this movie. And it really is just a great movie.
Yeah, for sure. I agree for sure. Like, I remember watching it many times, before, but we watched it actually today before this was our last one that we watched before doing this podcast. And I really enjoyed it again. I don't know if it's just I'm getting more into sci-fi and I kind of understand it more, maybe even just watching it and knowing more about sci-fi. But it seems like the more I watch it, the more I enjoy it. And also Trinity, she's a badass, another leading woman.
She's amazing. Carrie-Anne Moss just owned it.
Yeah. So we all know Neo is awesome and you expect that, but you don't really expect the, I guess, leading woman in this, or I didn't, to be so awesome. Maybe she should go back to Serenity and teach Marina Baccarin some fighting skills. Oh,
Marina Baccarin's got the fighting skills.
Oh, not in Serenity. Like her and Nathan Fillion were like in this fight scene and he was getting beat up and she was just like, eh, and all of a sudden she gets flung up at the wall and I'm like, oh, come on, you could hit harder than that.
The guy was an assassin. She blew up the room, didn't she? Yeah. She's like, that's not incense. Boom.
She can learn a few fighting skills from Trinity. She could just go hook herself up to the Matrix and learn. Like, I like how they hook into the Matrix and they can learn anything. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Also not original, but great.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you could put a key in your head and learn everything as well. Put a book in there.
Yeah, lock and key. Good show.
3.
In the 3rd spot, going to the top 3 here. In the number 3 spot, Alien 1979. Directed by Ridley Scott, starring Sigourney Weaver, Tom Skerritt, John Hurt, and Ian Holm. Ian Holm just died. He's also in The Fifth Element, so he's in 2 of these top 10 movies.
And he's young.
Yeah. After a space merchant vessel receives an unknown transmission as a distress call, one of the crew is attacked by a mysterious life form, and they soon realize that its life cycle has just begun.
Freaky.
Yeah, so freaky. Before I even talk about this, Erin, was this the first time you've seen this movie?
No.
In its entirety?
No, we've watched it. It's probably been a few years because I know we've watched all the Alien movies and we watched all the Predator movies because you're always into it. But every time you bring up Alien, I always have like, just the fact when you have like aliens or bugs or alien type bugs or whatever, like attach themselves to humans or like the Goa'uld and Stargate. Like, it just freaks me out. Like, that's like my worst nightmare.
My worst nightmare is ghost children. So this doesn't even hold a candle.
That's not as scary.
Do you want to come and play? I'll take an alien over that anytime. Give me acid blood, no problem.
Just don't eat during this movie. That's for sure.
Oh, I'll eat. This movie is epic.
Yeah.
It is so amazing. Not only is the cinematography just amazing, but Sigourney Weaver, come on.
Yeah.
Shout out to another badass female lead.
Yeah.
Right? This is 1979, and she held down the fort.
Yeah, she's young, like
Yeah.
really young in this. Because I always think of Sigourney Weaver from Avatar with the blue Avatar people.
And she's smoking like a chimney.
Yeah, and she's older, but that's the Sigourney Weaver I always have in my head.
This movie broke a lot of ground for a lot of reasons, and it portrayed space as like a dirty freight hauling, kind of just more industrial way, which I thought was really great. They did cryo sleep, which we've seen, but we didn't see very often until Alien. It was very creative. The story held up, and it was great acting and great directing.
Mm-hmm.
They did bust a lot of chops.
Yeah.
You asked me during this movie, like, is this how men treat each other?
Yeah.
because anytime they were by themselves, they were busting each other's chops, constantly making fun of each other the entire time. And it's true. I mean, this is near the time I was born. You bullied your friends and your enemies. I mean, it was just the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
And watching these movies gives you a really good insight in how we've progressed in treating each other.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Sigourney Weaver, Ripley, she bullied him right back. They didn't mess with her at all.
Mm-mm.
When she walked in, they were like, whoop. They minded their P's and Q's. Is that the saying?
Yeah.
Loved it. Loved this movie.
Yeah.
Glad we watched it again. I have to come up with another topic for the podcast so I can watch movies I like, and you have to watch them.
Me? Yeah. It's super suspenseful.
2,
Our number 2 is 2001: A Space Odyssey. And it came out in 1968.
That's a copyrighted track, so I have to make the noise with my mouth.
Change it a little bit.
That's not a performance, YouTube. It was an embarrassment.
It's directed by Stanley Kubrick, and it stars Keir Dullea, Gary Lockwood, and William Sylvester. After discovering a mysterious artifact buried beneath the lunar surface, mankind sets off on a quest to find its origins with help from intelligent supercomputer HAL 9000. What did you think of 2001, Greg?
2001 is genius. I mean, it's a cinematic masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
And not because it's the most exciting movie or the most exciting action or space battles, but I think it captured what space would be like. Quiet. Things take forever. If someone's spinning away after they get cut off the ship and you have to go get them, you're staring at them while you're in the ship for a long time until you catch them. I think there's times that it might have been too slow. And if you look at any of the reviews from the time, it was blasted in the theaters for being dull and boring. But there was a group that really liked it. And they were a group of basically stoners that would get, messed up and go watch this thing like over and over and over. And it saved it. It's hard to appreciate this movie unless you look at it like a piece of art.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the music and just some of the cinematography and how long scenes are and the absence of noise in some scenes.
Yeah, there's not a lot of dialogue, like, at all.
it's just genius. It's hard to watch. It's long and slow.
And you have to really pay attention because they don't tell you what's going on. It's more, you have to follow along with the images and, you kind of figure it out yourself, which kind of makes it fun, I think.
Yeah.
But I've never seen this movie before. And I think Greg was kind of like, oh, do you understand what's going on with like the monolith and stuff like that? And I was kind of like, what? Like, how did you even get that from watching it? But I think the fact that you've seen it more than once, I think helps. So I think if I went back and watched it again, I might grasp a few things different. And I think the fact that you kind of can think what you want, while you're watching it is kind of interesting. And the score to me, like, is so iconic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think I knew a lot of the music, just while watching. I was like, oh, that's where this came from.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty neat, like just how iconic it is.
Yeah, I agree. Now, this was also a book which I also have not read.
Really?
Yeah, it's by Arthur C. Clarke, and it's an iconic book.
Yeah, you should read it.
It's on my list.
Yeah.
I just I have to balance reading things to improve my sci-fi knowledge, and then reading things people would actually want to hear my review of on YouTube. See, it's a fine balance.
Yeah. I would think that this book would probably be really good, like better than the movie, because it probably explains more of what's going on.
I would hope so.
And I think that might help. It's also another movie that's not, it might have been really original back then in 1968, but it's another human versus the AI.
Mm-hmm.
So we get to see that trope again.
Yeah, that's a common theme even now.
1.
And in the number 1 spot, the best science fiction movie of all time, Blade Runner, 1982. Directed by Ridley Scott, second movie on our list.
Alien.
Starring Harrison Ford, Rutger Hauer, Sean Young, Edward James Olmos, Daryl Hannah. Lots of good actors in this. A Blade Runner must pursue and terminate 4 replicants who stole a ship in space and have returned to Earth to find their creator. Replicants are essentially robots, artificial intelligent robots like Data in Star Trek. Maybe the best way to say it. Or like the one in Aliens. What's his name? Can't remember, but there's one in Aliens, a synth. I think they called him in Aliens.
Yeah, it's interesting because they don't even know that they're AI either.
Yeah, they don't know they're robots. This is our number 1 pick, Erin. What did you think?
I wouldn't have picked it as number 1, but I do appreciate it for what it is, and I see, probably why people are so in love with this movie. And I think one of the reasons is Harrison Ford.
Oh, yeah.
He just came off of making 2 Star Wars movies. He did Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark. And so he was probably really popular back then, so this is his first movie like outside of those franchises. That's cool about the movie. And the thing that kept driving me crazy is that the movie was supposed to take place in 2020, which is, now.
Right.
And we don't have floating cars. Everything was just like dark and dingy and dirty and gross. Like, who would want to live in that world?
Yeah, it's very dystopian.
Yeah. And I don't know, I just don't think the technology was up to where it should be also in the movie, which I think I kind of disliked. But the story was pretty good. It was like a love story, I guess. And I don't know. If you think about it, it's kind of good, but I don't think I'd put it as my number 1 pick.
Yeah. We did watch the original. There is a director's cut or the final cut, I think is what it's called, where Harrison Ford doesn't have the thoughts in his head.
I don't think if he didn't have those thoughts in his head, I don't know if I would grasp as many things that was happening as either.
Yeah, I think if you know what's happening and you go back and watch that, it probably is better. I am kind of with you. I've never been a huge Blade Runner fan. I think the trope is is just mediocre.
Mhm.
I mean, the story, 4 replicants need to be murdered by Harrison Ford is essentially the trope. Ridley Scott did what Ridley Scott does. He filmed a dark movie. Harrison Ford was brilliant.
Mhm.
I liked a lot of the acting. I didn't mind the technology. I thought it was fine. I'm not a huge cyberpunk fan.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
And it was very cyberpunky. Maybe the quintessential cyberpunk movie. But I liked it. I mean, I'm a sci-fi nerd. So, you can give me robots and, the future, and I'm going to like it.
Mhm.
Is it my number one? Probably not, but I think it has a place on the list, and many, many, many people would rank it number one.
Mhm.
I've heard people call Blade Runner the perfect movie, the perfect
Really?
science fiction movie.
Yeah, it definitely should be on the list. I just don't think is number one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm not as hardcore sci-fi fan as most of these people that we pulled. So
Yeah, true. Any comments on our top 10? You glad you watched them?
yeah, super fun. We watched all of these movies within the last couple weeks now, and we've been preparing for this podcast. So hopefully everybody, enjoys our picks, and just coming from one, not super sci-fi fan to, Greg being a super sci-fi fan. I think it's really fun that we have different opinions on it. So it'd be nice to hear everybody else's opinions on these as
Are you
well.
telling
I think.
everybody to be nice in the comments?
No, say what you want. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and I think that's what makes talking about, shows and movies on the podcast fun.
I like the list. I think it's a solid list. I'm
Mhm.
glad we removed superheroes
Yeah.
and
Star
Star Wars and
Wars.
Star Trek, because we all know A New Hope would be on here
Oh,
really
yeah.
high.
Yeah.
We all know The Wrath of Khan would be on here really high.
Yeah,
Both
those are great movies.
both amazing movies. Probably, Black Panther would have probably made the list, but we pulled that stuff off because we wanted to be as pure of science fiction as we could get it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a solid list.
Mm-hmm. And now we're going to have to watch the sequels to like Alien and Matrix and
Terminator.
We're going to go back
Yeah.
and watch all those.
I think it's good. I think there's even sequels to 2001 Space
Oh, there is?
Space Odyssey. I think so. Is it called 2010? It might be. I can't remember. Sorry, guys, but I can't remember it. But there are sequels, I'm pretty sure. And thank you for watching and listening to this episode of Fan Dummies. Please subscribe, rate, and write us a review if you haven't already. We absolutely appreciate those reviews on iTunes. Even if you're in Overcast, hit the star. Whatever app you're listening to, give us the thumbs up in. We would really appreciate it. It helps the search results so much. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, let us know what you thought about the list. We respond. We would really love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, if there's a movie that didn't make the list, let us know because we might have to include it in the podcast later. Like we'll do a whole episode of, more sci-fi movies.
Movies that didn't make the list,
Yeah.
more so than we're going to do in our Patreon.
Yeah. Or maybe ones that we just should watch just to watch them.
Oh yeah, true. As always, links to our Patreon, our Facebook group, and our merch will be in the show notes. If you want to reach out to us, we are at Fan Dummies on all social media. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Bye.